Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're revising the spectacles and I'm going to be providing you with an analysis of the quote, mixed up together like bees in a hive. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you revise and inspect calls. Okay, let's analyse the quote, mixed up together like bees in a hive. The first thing we need to do is think about the context of this quote, where it appears in the play. Mr. Birling says, "We're not all mixed up together like bees in a hive, community and all that nonsense." Mr. Birling says this at the end of a speech he makes to the younger characters about society in Act 1. So now we need to think about some of the things that we can actually say about this that are analytical. So here's one example of something analytical that we could say about this quote. Mr. Birling says this immediately before the inspector arrives, to signify that the inspector is going to challenge Mr. Birling and the idea of individualism, that you are the only one that matters and that you shouldn't see yourself as part of a collective. So it's quite interesting the point in which this is said and what happens directly afterwards. So showing that we understand the actual structure of the play, what happens in the narrative, is going to get us more marks in our essay. Another thing you can say about this quote is this. The audience in 1946 had experienced World War II and had lived through the Blitz. They would have been insulted by this, by what Mr. Birling says. They felt a strong sense of community. So when Mr. Birling says that the idea of community is nonsense, he's delivering that line to an audience that would have felt a sense of togetherness at the end of World War II. Here's a really interesting thing that we can say about this quote. We can make a link to another moment in the play. Later on, Mr. Birling says, "You don't mean to say my son is mixed up in this business?" So here, the phrase mixed up is said again in Act 2 by Birling. This is right at the end of Act 2. Precy uses this quote, this phrase mixed up, as an ironic echo to emphasise how Mr. Birling's values and ideas are flawed. That's very evident to the audience in this moment. The fact that that is echoed again, that phrase is used at the end of Act 2, is there to signify the idea that actually in reality we are all intertwined, as the inspector later argues. Now let's think about how we could use this quote in an essay. When we write an essay, we often use PEA. We make a point, then we use the quote as evidence, and then we provide some analysis. So let's think about a point that we could use. Birling is driven by money and doesn't feel he has any responsibility to others in society and cannot see the truth. That's a point that I could make before using this quote as my evidence. And one of the reasons why this is a great point is because there are a number of key words in here that could fit a number of different essays. Birling, if we were asked to write about Mr. Birling, this moment in the play would be something that we could use. If we're asked to write about money or responsibility or the truth or society, all of these different ideas relate to this moment in the play. Let's think about using that quote as evidence. Mr. Birling says, "We're not all mixed up together like bees in a hive, community and all that nonsense." So I've introduced my evidence there. And now let's have some analysis. Mr. Birling makes a case for individualism in Act 1 directly before the inspector arrives. The London audience of 1946 would have been in opposition to this viewpoint, having felt a strong sense of community during the Blitz and in the war. And there are a number of different things. We thought about a few different things that we can tie on to this quote. That's what you need to do. And if you can use one piece of analysis that's really interesting and sophisticated, that's great. But if you can say more than one thing, you're exploring different layers of meaning and alternative interpretations. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and keep revising.